Cahokia Mounds. If you've never heard of it, let me introduce you to one of the greatest enigmas of ancient America. Located in southern Illinois, right outside St. Louis, this was once the largest and most sophisticated pre-Columbian city north of Mexico. At its peak, Cahokia was a massive urban center filled with ceremonial plazas, towering earthen mounds, and thousands of inhabitants engaging in rituals that stretch far beyond what mainstream historians are willing to admit. The official narrative says it was just a gathering place of the Mississippian people. But if you've been paying attention, you know better. Hundreds of burials, sudden excavation halts, and a history that doesn't add up. Something is being hidden here, just like in every other ancient site where evidence of a very different past is quietly buried. Now let's get into something that keeps repeating itself. Statues from the old world are missing their hands. It's a pattern that stretches across continents from Europe to Egypt and right here in America. The old stories tell us that certain individuals, beings of great stature and influence, had 6 fingers and 6 toes. If that's true, then the destruction of their statues wasn't random. It was calculated. They don't want you to see the truth. You see, history isn't just written, it's rewritten. And those who control the narrative erase what threatens their version of reality. The Bible and ancient texts worldwide reference giants with 6 fingers and 6 toes, often tied to the Nephilim, beings of immense power who once ruled and shaped civilizations. In 2 Samuel, there's a direct mention of a giant in Goth, standing as a descendant of these powerful entities with 6 fingers and 6 toes. This wasn't just one account. Stories from ancient cultures all over the world reference similar beings. And yet, when we examine the remains of past civilizations, we find statues with deliberately removed hands and feet. What were they hiding? Or better yet, what were they revealing? At the Metacenter, we dig deeper than the surface, and we don't just read about history, we go and experience it. That's why we visit Cahokia Mounds every year. This isn't just another historical site. This is a location where the past refuses to stay buried. If you're interested in joining us for our next trip, check the website. You don't want to miss it. Now let's take this further. Archaeologists uncovered mass burials in Cahokia, bodies stacked together in ways that defy simple explanation. But what happened next? Excavations abruptly stopped. They claim it was for preservation. But I ask you, what were they really preserving? The official story claims they found no anomalies. But look at the reports from decades past, and you'll find whispers of skeletons with extra digits, just like in Egypt, just like in Mesopotamia, just like in the Adena mounds of Ohio. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Polydactyly, the presence of extra fingers and toes, is considered a rare genetic mutation today. But what if it wasn't a mutation in the past? What if it was a marker of something else, something powerful? High-status tombs in Egypt contained mummified remains with extra digits. The Cherokee and other indigenous tribes spoke of the Moon People, beings of immense stature with elongated skulls and extraordinary abilities. The Paiute described cannibalistic giants living in the caves of Nevada, caves that were sealed off after the 1920s when giant skeletons were discovered inside. Are we seeing a pattern here? They want you to believe that the past was primitive, that these sites were built by people with wooden tools and boundless patience. But tell me, does it really make sense that structures like Cahokia, the pyramids, or the Cologne Cathedral were built with nothing but crude tools and man-powered labor? Or is there something far more advanced hidden beneath the surface? Let's talk about suppression. The Smithsonian and other institutions have a long history of losing giant skeletons. Reports from the 1800s and early 1900s describe massive bones discovered in burial mounds across the Midwest, only for these remains to disappear once authorities take possession. The same pattern repeats. Discoveries are made, brief reports surface, then silence. Just like Cahokia. Now here's the real kicker. Many believe these stories are just myths. But think about this. If they were just myths, why would the systematic destruction of statues and archaeological evidence be necessary? Why remove the hands and feet? Why stop digging at Cahokia? If there's nothing to hide, why hide anything at all? And here's where we step into the metaphysical implications. What if these beings, these so-called Nephilim, weren't just relics of the past? What if they're a missing link in the true understanding of humanity's origins? What if the reason these burial sites are sealed off is because they connect to something that doesn't fit the mainstream timeline? What if the bloodline of these beings never truly disappeared? These figures weren't just leaders in the political sense. They were the architects of the world as it was known. They held knowledge of the stars, energy manipulation, and construction techniques that we still struggle to replicate. And if they were once seen as rulers, divine or otherwise, what does that say about those who may still carry their lineage today? History isn't what we've been told. It never was. It's a controlled narrative that shapes our perception of reality. The Cahokia mounds are just one piece of a puzzle that spans across time, continents, and hidden knowledge. The missing hands and feet aren't just about statues. They're about erasing an entire chapter of human history. And the fact that these sites remain off limits, with research deliberately halted, tells us everything we need to know. The truth is right there in front of us. The question is, are you ready to see it?